Hello developers, writers, and everyone who loves game design.
Welcome to DLC Not Included, our weekly podcast where we discuss game development, the industry, and everything in between.
We're your hosts, Steele
and Teal. Glad you can join us.
Episode 9 of the first season of our revival.
Yes, of DLC Not Included.
That's right. Today is a beautiful Saturday day. Mm-hmm. The pollen has been dropping in force here in South Texas.
So we are covered in pollen.
Mm-hmm. We're going to do our best to keep our coughing off the mic, but we are both drinking hot tea and sorrow.
Yes.
Lots of Claritin.
Yeah.
All right. A big shout out to everyone who is watching us live during our recording, as well as anyone who is listening to us, Spotify, iTunes, etc. We are going to go over a topic that we've been sort of leaning into for the couple of episodes this season.
Right. I think it's been a few episodes.
Yeah. This one is?
That is marketing your game.
Which is specifically marketing your game to your consumers, your end users.
Yes.
Your players. This will draw upon other podcasts and will reference ones we're going to do in the future. So I guess as we're doing season 1, which is all about how to be a developer.
Yes.
Kind of tying things in.
This is definitely going to be a bridge episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely so. All right, so before we go into this, a quick note to our live audience. We will not be monitoring chat, but we will be monitoring the questions, which you will, at the end of the podcast, be able to enter using the podcast questions Slime Point Redemption.
Right.
So let us go in with this. This particular topic is something that Teal will be doing a lot of talking on because this is actually one of her credentials. This is something that Teal knows a lot about. Teal, tell them your credentials so we all know where you're coming from.
Sure. I've got both my bachelor's of business administration and my MBA. In my MBA, I concentrated in marketing as well as management, and I've dealt with these topics and issues throughout my career.
Right. So in this particular instance, even though Studio Blue, we consider ourselves to be SMEs, subject matter experts on game development, this is something Teal is definitely an SME on. So a lot of this podcast is going to be me kind of pushing the conversations according to our outline, but then letting Teal fill in the blank.
Oh, yeah. And I love filling in the blank. So
how are we going to start this out? Because there's a specific methodology.
Okay. The way I wanted to structure this is going over what I call the 3 questions. What, when, and how.
Okay.
These are going to lead us into the different ways that you can market your game.
Okay.
And eventually we're going to give you actual ways to market.
Okay.
I do want to emphasize that it's best to do these in order.
Okay.
Answer your what question, then your when question, and then your how question.
So to make sure that I understand, what you do not want to do when you're attempting to market your game is immediately jump into, okay, what kind of campaigns can I do? What kind of ads can I put out?
Exactly. That you're putting the cart before the horse by doing that. The first thing you want to do is answer what?
Okay.
Simply put, what are you marketing?
All right. Well, aren't you just marketing your game? Isn't that really it? So question 1, you're marketing your game. All right, move on to question 2.
Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. Okay. Yes, the end product is your game.
Okay.
But let's talk about this end product.
Okay.
The game needs to be in a finished and playable state. You need to have it as free from bugs as possible with an update roadmap. Yes, I'm talking about a complete package.
Okay, so you're not just going to be marketing, hey, here's my spaghetti western FPS shooter, or here's my cyber RPG that takes place on the net in virtual space.
Right. That's just concepts.
Okay.
And honestly, at the end of the day, I'm going to be brutal here. Nobody cares about concepts. Okay. They want what can I play? What are you giving me? What are you giving me to entertain me?
Gotcha.
They need something actual. So you need to have an actual product.
I got you. Now, just a quick question here. How much are we focusing right now on those distribution methods? I mean, is that something that we even want to think about right now? Like, are we going to put this on Steam or itch.io? Is that even a consideration right now?
No, it's not. Okay. Not at this stage.
Okay.
You'll touch upon those when we answer the 3rd question of how. Right now, you want to focus on what.
Okay.
Well, and so, yeah, I just want to emphasize that you do want to have what you're marketing is your finished product.
Got
It's
it.
not an idea, not a concept,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly not vaporware.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
Right. Don't market vaporware.
Please.
So is that all your marketing? Is the what just your game, or is there more to it?
There's actually more to it.
Okay.
In addition to your game, let's talk about your brand.
Ooh.
Because your game, this one game, is just part of a portfolio of games and activities that make up your professional brand.
Oh, wow.
And that is your studio or you as a solo developer, your image.
Okay, so what exactly is a brand? I mean, we hear about it. You and I talk about that a lot on our AMAs and our various critical plays and our various live streams. We're always talking about the brand, but what exactly is your brand?
Well, the short answer is your brand is the public's perception of you.
Okay.
But it gets a little bit more involved when you do a deeper dive into it. A classic marketing definition of brand. I just want to kind of pull this out of my MBA portfolio here.
Right.
Your brand is the marketing practice of creating a name, a symbol, or a design that identifies and differentiates a product from other products.
Okay. So, for example, the Studio Blue brand is the symbol.
Yes.
Our avatar is steel and teal.
Right.
And our personas during our streams, etc. All
Correct.
That's part of the brand.
That's
package.
all part of the brand package, and the slime.
And the slime, the Studio Blue slime.
So all that is part of our brand. Also, intangible things you can't see is our reputation,
right,
and our community standing.
There you go.
And how trustworthy people feel that we are.
Okay.
Do people feel comfortable asking us questions and getting a good answer?
Right. So this is something that I'm assuming a lot of people overlook. Like they just say, I'm going to put out my game and it's going to be a wonderful game. It's going to be the best game ever. Here's some screenshots. Here's some gameplay demos. But they overlook their brand. Is that a mistake?
That is a big mistake.
Okay.
Because at far long. Okay, let me get my thoughts straight here. After a game is done and put out there, at the end of the day, you still have your image, your professional image, your reputation.
Got it.
And a bad game can tank that.
Okay.
And then, we've talked about this before in previous podcasts. It's a lot harder to regain something you've lost than to put it out there the correct way and keep it going.
So this is actually very important. Would you say this is as important as the product or more important?
Your brand, your image is more important than your product.
Okay. Because
products come and products go. And sometimes you're just going to have a miss.
Right.
But your brand, your image is forever.
So obviously this podcast is about marketing your game. Would you say at this point, Teal, that we need to have a podcast specific about brand management?
I think we do.
Okay.
I think we do. It is something that is on the best developers. It's on the peripheral of your vision. And for most of us, when you're starting out, you don't think about that.
Okay.
You're not focused on that. You're focused on, I want to get this cool idea out there. I want to make this game. You're not thinking about how you're going to be perceived down the road.
So I have a little note that you wrote when we were doing the outline prep, and I'm going to go ahead and just read it, and then it'll seg us into the next part.
Okay.
You're saying that everything that we do needs to contribute to that professional image and that brand. Ergo, it's very important how you market the game, which is the topic of this podcast, because even marketing just one game contributes to that brand. So I guess we're kind of coming full circle here.
Yes. Everything you do contributes to the brand.
Okay.
So whether it's good stuff or bad stuff, it all is part of how people perceive you.
Okay. So it's kind of good that we took these like 5 so minutes to kind of seg away for a second and talk about brand, understanding we're going to go do a full podcast on it. Because you as a developer, an indie developer, AAA developer, doesn't matter, need to keep that in the back of your head when you're following these subsequent steps. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay, cool. So we've kind of answered the what at this point. We are marketing a game, but through this game, we are marketing ourselves.
Correct. That is exactly what's happening.
Awesome. So what's next?
Okay, let's talk about the when.
When?
Okay, when do you market your game, your project?
I'm going to assume before we jump into this that the answer is not as soon as I think of my game idea.
No. No, you want to have a lot more. You want to have a more solid product. You've got to have something definitive done already before you start marketing.
That makes perfect sense. Another note that I see, just for those who are listening, we do take a lot of notes when we're prepping for these, and Teal, being the SME in marketing, wrote down a little note for Steele.
I did.
So this one says that we need to differentiate between the two different types of marketing destinations, consumer and community. Could you go a little more into that?
Yes. So the consumer for this purpose is your player.
Okay.
What I call the end user. For those of you who are more into tech, yes.
Right.
Your consumer, your end user.
Right.
That is what we're targeting. Now the community.
Okay.
The community is all those who are your peers, people who critique games, people who help deliver them, who help get the product to market. Their community is what you're part of.
Right. We went over the community itself in a couple of our previous podcasts. So when we're talking about that, your peers, other developers, those who share an interest in your engine, your genre, etc.
Yes.
Or your community.
That's part of your community. Now, I do want to note that your community is a part of your consumer base.
Okay.
But the reverse is not true.
Okay.
All your consumers are not part of your community.
Got it. So the player, when we say something like the player community, the player Discord, that's using a different word. When we say community, we're specifically talking about your peer community, your developer. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it's good to make sure that definition is out there. Quick question for you, Teal. When you talk about the consumers, the consumer base, does this matter whether the game is commercial or non-commercial, or is it across the board the same thing?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're selling your game for money or if you're just putting it out there to for people to play for fun. It doesn't matter, commercial or not commercial. It's the same idea.
So to make sure I'm wrapping my head around this, there's a differentiation between marketing to a community, which is your peers, other developers, etc., and marketing to the general public, which is the consumer base, the end user.
That is correct.
And you can consider the community to be a part of that consumer base, but not vice versa.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it. Okay, so let's say that we're going to market to our community. Okay. When is the earliest you want to start marketing? Because this is about the timing of marketing, right?
Right.
Okay. When's the earliest you want to start marketing to your peer community?
I would say the early demo.
Okay.
Right past your proof of concept stage.
Okay.
Because the best developers have some community involvement. It's good to get feedback from the community when you're developing and testing. It's pulling people in to get their thoughts and ideas on some of the features you want to put in.
Yeah.
It's involving your community in your dev cycle. Some developers, and I think this is a great idea, have a little blog page, and they just keep people apprised on where they're at in their project.
Right. And
that's all about community involvement.
Which we went over, I think, in our podcast last week about, community network.
Yes.
Right.
See, this is not promoting.
Right.
This is a different animal. This is getting your community involved in your project.
So if you're going to promote to your community, the absolute earliest would be that early demo.
Yeah.
You don't want to start promoting your game when you just have an idea.
Yeah, because then you get tagged by vaporware.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not a fair tag in a lot of cases, but unfortunately, this is where we're at. If you don't have something done, a couple of maps, a level, then you are looked upon as, okay, you're just talking.
Right. You're not actually doing anything. Yeah, I get that. And unfortunately, that ties back into brand because you'll start getting that negative reputation.
If you do that often enough
Yeah.
for a long enough period of time, sure, yeah, you're going to get a rep for being all talk and no action.
Totally understood. Now, what about the latest? Like, when's the latest you want to start marketing to your community? Or is there even?
Well, I would say whenever you're confident in the game, of being as close to finished as you like it, up to and including the gold. The gold phase.
I could have like the first 10 hours and I feel I'm now ready for my community to look at it. I'm going to start marketing it to my community.
Right.
Or I could have it be, at that gold level and go, okay, guys, here's what I've been working on.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm marketing to the community, not the consumer base, not the public.
Correct.
Okay.
As I said, you need to keep it firmly in mind the difference between your community, like the RPG Maker community. You're making an RPG Maker game, you're part of that community. Right. And your end user, your consumer.
Which
could be anybody.
Would you actually recommend waiting until it's about to go gold, or would you recommend earlier, or what?
I actually, we're talking about community here.
Right, community, right.
So I recommend earlier if you want that development level feedback.
Because as you said earlier, a lot of the developers, we all kind of work together.
Yes.
Especially in a tight-knit, friendly community like the Unreal RPG Maker community, the Go community.
Right.
We're all kind of really close to each other. Ergo, if we release something that's like in the beta phase or the late alpha phase, we're going to get more constructive feedback on generation.
You're absolutely correct on that. The worst time to try to implement any kind of feedback is in your late beta.
Oh yeah.
You pretty much have a mostly done game at that point. So going back and putting stuff in, well, we all know that doesn't really work out.
So a lot of it's going to be a timing issue on when you as a developer feel that you're the most comfortable showing something and are open to feedback from your community.
Correct. Yes.
So there's no hard and fast. It is what you as the developer feel. Remember,
you developer, you are in charge of your project. This is, everything is driven by you.
Right.
Okay. Right. Your idea, your vision, and your comfort level.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Total sense.
So keep that in mind that you are the boss of this.
Let's shift gears over to the consumers, the end user. Okay. Because this is now a totally different warhorse.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So when is the earliest that you would say you should start marketing to the end users, the general public?
Well, end users they're more demanding,
right?
As they should be. They want a product that works,
right?
So the earliest you should give them anything is mid-beta.
Okay, so when you have the features implemented, the game from start to finish is created with the features in. At this point, you're polishing features, refining assets, writing, etc.
And getting rid of the major bugs.
Crash bugs, right?
Crash bugs.
Yeah. Okay.
That's when you can start putting out
your little marketing tools.
A little bit of marketing, yeah.
Okay, but what about the demos? Because that's a big thing. I mean, back in the day, like days of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 for the PlayStation 1, we'd get these neat little CDs that would have a playable demo of the game.
That's true, yeah, they would.
Given just that methodology, I know I see the little note, don't mention early access until the end. Well, I won't mention it. Oops. But seriously, when should a demo under normal circumstances be released?
In your gold phase.
Okay.
Don't, I'd err on the side of caution.
Right.
Don't release anything like a beta to your end consumer.
Right.
Wait till gold. The reason is because your end user does have those expectations of having an actual game to play.
Yeah.
A game that works, a game that has fun features, a game that doesn't crash.
Right.
That has good, tight dialogue, a tightly written story, etc.
A good example is the demo disc for Final Fantasy VIII that shipped with like one of the Bushido Blade, I think. And in that one, you played the seed exam where they went to Galbadia,
right,
and did the EM Tower.
I do remember that, yeah.
And this showed you how the game played. And the only real difference was, I think Renoa was in the party instead of Selphie.
Right.
But that was just so that you had a slightly, you had more magey character because I think Renault was being pushed as a huge mage at that point.
Oh yeah, she was being pushed as the major heroine.
Right. So they had her in it, but that was the only major change. Selphie Timmet is the character who takes her place. Selphie is your third seed.
Correct.
Okay, so in that case, the gameplay of that demo was very similar to the final version. Ergo, it was a gold. It was from the gold. It was based off.
Yes,
of gold.
it was. It was the gold phase.
Okay, so because for those who don't remember, gold does not mean published. Gold means finished, ready for publication, and we're just getting rid of those last little problems.
Right.
So you're saying that when a game is gold, then it's time to put out a demo to the general public.
Yeah, that'd be the latest that you want to start throwing things out at the consumers is the gold phase.
Okay, so the latest for the demo or the latest for marketing in general?
Marketing in general.
Okay, so to make sure I understand, the earliest that you want to market to your end users is the mid-beta.
Mid-beta,
but that's putting out information, screenshots, etc.
Yeah, screenshots, trailers, that sort of thing.
But then for the demo, you want to wait until you're gold, and you don't want to start marketing after you've released. You want to literally be like anywhere from mid-beta to gold, demo at gold.
Yes, you need to give yourself some time to generate the buzz.
Right.
Because this process is not a quick process.
Got it.
It's over a number of months, up to and including 12 months.
There you go.
It depends, a year. Right? But I just want to emphasize that when you do release something that's mid-beta, make sure that you have the caveat on there that features can and will change so that expectations are realistically set.
Right, like, so I know I'm jumping a little bit into different things you can do, but we've all seen the gameplay trailer.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they'll always say, might not be indicative of the final product. Correct. So if you're doing that mid-beta trailer, you let sure that your people know that this may be a little different in the final end result. Okay, I gotcha. Now, let's go over the early access.
Yes, early access.
Because what we've just talked about is how things have been done prior to early access being a major thing.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and I'll ask you a few questions based on that. But we all understand that we're going to be referencing that early access podcast we did a few weeks ago.
Yes, and please check it out.
Yes, please do. Okay, so when is the best time to start using early access as a marketing tool?
That would be during your late beta phase. Okay. That's the very earliest that you should start.
Which we mentioned in the podcast as being when we recommend putting a game into early access. Because at that point, you have all the main features and that you're wanting to get community feedback through the early access.
Right.
To have that sense of, when we say community, we mean consumer community, player community, to get the game the best it can be.
Right.
Phasmophobia has done a great job of that.
Phasmophobia is a perfect example of doing early access right.
Yes. While a lot of other games that we've looked at, and I'm not going to mess with that particular JRPG that has the word edge in it, but they didn't do it right and they've suffered for it, but they've caught up. They fixed themselves. Yeah. But Phasmophobia out of the starting gate has done it correctly. Right. So let's just say that let me ask you this, okay? So it's done with indie developers. They do it all the time. A lot of indie developers put out their game in late alpha, early beta. Right. So it's done by everybody. Everybody does it. Everybody puts out their game into early access and starts marketing it that way almost immediately. So it's got to be okay, right, Teal? No, just because everybody seems to be doing it, does not make it the correct way. Okay. And it's actually not the correct way. And does it come down to expectations? Why exactly? Well, first of all, you're putting out a product to your consumer that isn't complete. It's nowhere near complete. You're leading them to think that it's one thing and it may end up being another. For instance, you have a lot of puzzles in your early access, so people think, hey, this is a puzzle game, and then you put it out and it's a shooter. Right. Hypothetical there, but I mean that's some of the nonsense that can occur. You put something out too early,
you're setting the wrong expectation.
Now, again, we're, of course, covering ground we went over in the early access podcast, but it's important to say this because a lot of people use that early access as a marketing tool, and that's not really what it's there for.
No, it's not what it's there for. Also, think about all the bugs and mistakes.
Right.
Dialogue mistakes, story mistakes, grammar mistakes, text running over text box mistakes. Yeah, you've seen this. Everybody's seen this.
Right.
That's not what you want to be putting out there as your marketing tool. Seriously, right. You don't want to do that.
So while early access can be used to involve your end user in the late development cycle, using it outside of the late beta phase as a marketing tool can actually shoot you in the foot and harm your brand.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, and it will.
Yeah.
Early access is, let's not confuse that with community access, because you do want to, as we said before, you want to involve your fellow devs, your fellow community members in your dev cycle.
Right. So having your game available for the community and the consumers, the whole point of this was to differentiate the two are very separate timelines.
They are very separate.
And it's important that you adhere to them and only use that early access model when, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, you want to get the general public involved in the late stages of development.
Right. Because at that point, now you're starting to push promoting it, getting its awareness out there. You want the game awareness to be out there and people to start talking about it.
So I guess it would be fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I guess it'd be fair to say that the moment the public has access to your game, you better be marketing it properly. Like before that public, actually, let me rephrase that. Before the public gets access to your game, you better be marketing it properly.
You need to have a plan.
Okay.
You need to have a solid plan before you do anything, before you hit that promote button. you need to have your plan in place. So, and we've talked about that in I think in a classroom. I think we talked about that in one of our creative classrooms.
We did.
About having a marketing plan.
Right. And now we're going over in the podcast, which is just a perfect way to seg into the third question.
Okay. Yeah. How? How do you market this game?
So now this is a high-level overview of creating a marketing plan.
Yeah, very high level.
Right.
Because there's entire classes on bringing a product to market.
Yeah, you could, if you had the capital, you would hire a marketing company or a PR company.
Yes, you would.
To handle this for you. Which, speaking of which, we mentioned this in a previous podcast, if you get a publisher.
Yep. A publisher is going to take a lot of the burden off of you.
They really are.
Because they have the channels, they have the resources. They're established.
Right.
So they make it really easy.
Right. And we have, again, the podcast on that where we talk about that. Co-publishing, it's 50-50, 60-40. But we're going to talk now about if you are marketing your game, a self-pub. So you're doing all the marketing. Is there anything that we should really kind of look at when we start this off?
Well, let's keep in mind one thing. Okay. Keep in mind as an indie developer, keep in mind your method of distribution that you'll be using.
Right.
For instance, are you planning to put your game on Steam? Is that how people are going to access it?
Right.
Are you going to be, burning CDs and putting it in stores like GameStop?
Right.
Just as hypothetical. I mean, you got to keep in mind how you're going to get that game in the hands of your players.
So to cycle back to what we talked about earlier, when we said, hey, at the very beginning of this, the three questions, don't think about how you're going to distribute your game just yet. Right. Now, when you start building the marketing campaign.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So I see one. Here's your third note, which has on big letters diversify. let me hand that over to you. How important is diversification?
So the best promotional campaigns use a plethora of different methods to get your product out there.
Right.
You don't rely on just one thing.
Okay.
So we talk about diversifying your marketing channels.
Got it.
What are marketing channels?
Yeah.
Well, that's just simply vehicles on how to get your product out there to the public's perception.
So now that you said vehicles, there's no way I'm not going to imagine a little buggy with a big sign that says "Buy my game" going around town.
Hey, that's one way to do it.
It really is. Okay,
but marketing channels is like online channels, print channels.
Are those advertisements?
Advertisements, any kind of any way you would use to advertise your game. That's a channel.
Then let's go over these one at a time. So let's start with advertisements.
Okay.
Now we're building our marketing plan. What are ways that our indie developers can use advertisement to generate buzz, market, promote, and get people to buy their game?
Well, obviously the most easily done and common way to do it is what we call online advertising. You utilize websites, YouTube, Spotify,
little broadcasting services,
to showcase your game.
So things like having an ad on Gama Sutra's website,
right?
And it pops up, and it says, here's my game. It's coming out this time. You click on the link, it brings you to maybe your website or wherever,
right?
And showcases, hey, here's my game. It's coming out on May 30th. It's going to be, here's the link to go get it off of Steam. Pre-orders are open now.
I mean, when you listen to, when I listen to things like Spotify or Pandora,
right?
Ads pop up, and not just a verbal ad,
right?
But in the in the phone window.
Those little things that are like, oh, that's annoying. Click, I want to listen to my next track.
Yeah, a little ad will pop up, and so that is advertising.
Yeah.
It's a quick pop up, and it stays there while your song is playing, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
But those type of things are used.
Okay.
I've seen it used by mobile gaming. Mobile games to promote different mobile games.
Clash
I've also seen
Clans,
it. Right, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. And YouTube would be similar. I mean, I can't actually watch a YouTube video nowadays without seeing something for Candy Crush. Like, it's literally everywhere.
Right.
Okay, so I get that. So basically, you're buying ad space, whether it be like a website, YouTube, etc., Spotify, whatever.
10-second ad space.
Yeah. Okay.
20-second ad space, that sort of thing.
Are those the only online advertisements you can have?
Oh, absolutely not. There's also trailers,
which a lot of times your stuff will link to. Okay.
Trailers are big. Trailers are they're like mini movies. Seriously, because you have an opportunity to really show your game in action.
Right. And I know that there's multiple types of trailers. There's your I call them the showcase trailers, where it basically shows those cinematics.
Yes.
The old Cyberpunk 2077 one, where the girl had the psycho. She was a cyber psycho with the the people were shooting at her. And it was all super slow motion. That was a showcase trailer.
The cutscene trailers, yes.
And those are ultra cinematic. Nowadays, I mean, anyone can build these massively high-end looking, super professional Hollywood level trailers, and it's a hype build. The showcase trailer is about hype, right?
Yes, it is.
Is there anything that we have to remember when we're marketing using those? Like, keep that in mind when you're creating your showcase trailer.
Okay. Make sure that you are depicting what the game actually is. Okay. We if it's a shooter game, let's not just have a trailer on the puzzles.
Right. So it's like, for example, let's go back to the very early, I think it's like the 2013 Cyberpunk one. We just knew it was Cyberpunk.
Right.
We didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
But later showcase trailers, as we got closer, before it was gameplay, okay, it's going to be a first-person RPG.
Right.
Things like that. Or like the old New Vegas. Remember the Fallout New Vegas one?
Oh, yeah.
We knew what we were getting into because of the brand, and we knew it was going to take place in the Mojave. So showcase trailers it's important. This is what the game is.
Yeah.
You're going to get into buying this game whenever it comes out is going to get you into a turn-based RPG, a FPS,
right,
etc. Okay.
I do want to point out that you did bring up Cyberpunk. I just want to say that they started promoting way too early.
They did.
And that set up an expectation of disappointment, which happened.
resulted in the debacle that we are currently
Right.
sorting through right now. It's a perfect example of choosing your marketing time at the right
Your
time.
timing is important.
Is impeccable.
But yeah, your showcase trailer needs to depict what the game actually is.
Okay.
And then you also want to have a gameplay trailer.
Very important nowadays.
You want to show what actual gameplay is like.
Right. Do not mark it down, and I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Do not mark this down as a gameplay trailer if it's just pre-rendered cutscene. That does not work. That's fake. And also,
Here.
also we want to call out the industry, because the AAA industry loves doing this, where it'll be pre-rendered scenes looking like gameplay that aren't actual gameplay.
No.
Don't lie to your players. Have gotten really good at figuring out lies.
Please, be genuine. Be authentic. Be honest.
We say that a lot.
Yes.
So before we move on to another type of ad, the website's YouTube, you're just generating a 10-second ad.
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
Hey, here's my game. Badoop, badoop, badoop. This is what it is. It's cool. Follow this link to learn more.
Follow this link, learn more.
And then the trailers, we kind of went over showcasing gameplay.
Make sure you have your web page up and running.
Yes.
That is free of bugs and crap.
Yes.
Because when people are going to your web page, they are expecting to see what is this game about, and they want trailers.
They do. Is on okay? So we have online. What other types are there?
Okay, well there's print ads.
Oh wow, yeah.
And print is not dead.
Okay, it's not.
No, it is not. Okay, because you still have trade magazines and publications that are out there.
It's true.
You've still got that.
I have had. I think it's a Game Informer and Game Developer. I've had those forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's still a viable way to promote your game, is taking out a print ad.
I would assume that nowadays newspapers, not so much for the game industry, but it's still a method.
Newspapers are a method. Okay, just throw that out there.
Right.
But I wouldn't think that newspapers are very effective. Most news has gotten online anyway, so see online ads.
There you go. What else we got?
Hey, social media.
Very important, yeah.
Okay, social media is a big ad driver right now.
Right, and as we went over in the publisher podcast, there are entire companies that handle just social media marketing and social media campaigns, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's its own animal, but understand that when you choose to put your marketing dollars towards social media, you're going to get a big payoff.
It costs a lot.
It does cost a lot, but you can make a lot. So that risk reward concept.
Yeah. Okay. Any other types we want to talk about as far as ads go?
Sure. Okay. Direct marketing.
Oh, are those things you get in the mail, like the mailers?
Yep. You can also get them on email, through email.
So email lists would probably be better for a video game.
Yeah, mailing lists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
you want to make sure that you want to give the targets of your campaign the opportunity to opt in.
Right, opt in, opt out, double opt in. Because otherwise you're spamming.
Yeah.
So I guess the big thing for email lists, if we're using like MailChimp or whatever the program is,
it's targeting.
Right.
These companies have gotten really good at targeting the audience.
Right.
So to eliminate the whole spam, it goes to the trash factor.
Right. Or like, hey, if you go to my website and fill out something to get on my mailing list, every mailing list has a link to unsubscribe. So that way, because once you get the reputation of spamming, again, it hurts your brand.
Well, yeah, and as I was saying, the companies that do direct marketing, they're really good at it. That's why it's a good way. It's a good investment.
It's a good investment.
Because their lists are crafted of people who have indicated interest in this particular thing. Playing games, titrating it further. I like playing first-person shooters.
There you go.
Great. I like playing puzzle games that uses fruit and jewels. I mean, they can titrate on down, and they can target.
So a lot of it is, and this is why a lot of people hire professionals to do their
Yes.
marketing, is learning who you should be targeting and then using all these different advertising techniques to target those people, because you don't want to target someone who's a fan of Candy Crush and all they play is those match 3 puzzle games with your in-depth story-driven turn-based strategy RPG.
Yep, exactly.
So market research is important, which is its own animal, but then making sure you target your ads to that audience is equally
right. So when you're when you're contracting a direct marketing company, you want to, again, you're going to want to have as close to a finished product as possible, gold.
Yeah.
So that they know what they're working with.
I get now why you mentioned we shouldn't talk about your target audience until direct marketing, because social media, print, online, a lot of that's already done for you.
Yes.
There are filters up there automatically that are going to say, okay, so this is what you're looking for, check these boxes, or you're putting it in Game Developer Magazine, it's going to go to other game developers, etc.
Right.
So that's done automatically, but when you get to direct marketing and the next one, the last one, you have to have a better idea already, and you have to have that market research already done.
Yeah.
Got it. So what's the last one on the ad list?
Broadcast.
Oh boy.
Okay, so in days of yore, it was radio and television. Now, we still have radio and television.
Believe it or not.
But OMG, it's very expensive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars to get a 30-second radio spot.
And of course, nowadays, the streaming services that offer ad space is the exact same in cost and functionality as television.
Sure.
So if you're going to have your 30-second game ad on Hulu, you're going to pay about as much as if you were popping that sucker onto the Cartoon Network. I just picked something.
Yeah, we just pull it out of our butt. Right.
Yeah.
It may be prohibitively expensive, but again, I'm just talking all the different ways that you can advertise.
Would you say for those who have that money, it's a good ROI?
Absolutely, it is.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Radio is a captive audience.
It really is. It really is. They can't turn away from it without turning off the radio. Same thing technically with TV.
Well, technically with, I use air quotes, television.
Right, because that's including streaming.
But television nowadays is your individual channels.
Yeah.
Funimation.
Right.
Or HBO Max.
Right.
It's specific channels now.
Got it. So you're going to pay through the nose, but you're going to hit a massive audience, and the ROI could be really high. Okay. Are there any more middle or anything less expensive than that?
Okay, so less expensive, but still not cheap, is sponsoring a podcast or a stream.
Okay, so you get someone
being a sponsor of someone's stream.
And what does sponsoring mean?
What it means is you pay them money, a sizable sum actually, to talk about your product.
Okay, so it'd be something along the lines of paying a podcaster, real popular podcaster who likes to talk about esports. Yeah, and you're going to have your esport game,
and so over the course of their season, for however many podcasts or streams they're going to do, you're sponsoring them. So let's say you pay them $5,000. Right. So that $5,000 ideally will go towards their expenses. They'll use it in order to buy more capital assets, et cetera, or that sort of thing. Yeah, you're sponsoring them so that they'll have an income and they'll be able to purchase things.
Okay,
sponsorship is more than just one podcast, one show. It's multiple. They're going to always mention you. Let's talk about the old, and this is going way back, the old soap operas, right? Oh yes. Sponsored by Tide laundry detergent.
And for multiple episodes in that season of that soap opera, they would talk about that. So
they would show a Tide commercial.
So a sponsorship is a longer term, like 5, 6, a season, whatever. How many episodes are a season?
Yeah.
Is there a cheaper version of that?
Okay. Well, before we get into the cheap, I just want to say that being a Patreon is a lot like being a sponsor nowadays.
Okay, so, well, we can talk about this. Studio Blue has a Patreon.
Yes.
And our patrons, to some extent, sponsor us.
That's correct. That's why they get, they're in the end scroll
Of our
for credits for every one of our episodes.
Our live streams, yes.
Our live streams. Their name is there.
Okay.
And for some of the bigger podcaster, YouTubers, patrons, whatever, they get talked about on the show.
Right. Like we'll have our higher level patrons get more development time with us where we can work one-on-one with them.
But we're talking about, what I'm saying is, let's talk about, it's a Gundam. Okay. I'm just throwing a name out there.
Yeah.
I love you, Gundam. But he'll take some time out and talk about this really cool earbuds or headset.
I got it. So that's not a Patreon, that's a sponsor.
That's a sponsor.
Okay, like Ray-Ban.
Yes.
Or whatever. Okay, I get what you're saying. So to kind of meld the two together, because we kind of went in two different directions here, sponsorship is a company or something who will pay a podcaster, a streamer, a YouTuber, X sum of money to promote their product or service over a length of time.
Right.
While with Patreon and things like Patreon, the general public has the ability to help on a lower level,
yes,
and still get the good feels of I'm helping this person who I like, or I'm getting my name recognized.
But they get their name
a little something
in the credits. Yes, there's a return on that. They get their name out there.
Okay, so I guess to kind of before we move on to the cheap option, which you're talking about, sponsorship in general is a great way for everyone to feel like they're involved in getting something back, and you yourself as a game developer could sponsor a set of streams, a podcast season, or whatever, and get your game out there during the gold phase prior to publishing.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Now, what's the cheap option for those who don't have the money for sponsorship?
Cheap option is having a plug on an online broadcast.
Okay, so it's a one-off version of a
one-off, yes.
Okay. I've seen this 1,000 times with different YouTubers I like to watch, where they'll be like, today's episode is brought to you by, but then they never mention it again. So that wasn't a sponsorship, that was a plug.
That's a plug.
Okay.
Yes.
And I guess those YouTubers just do they present them all the same way. You know, okay, I got it. So if you, as a game developer, don't have the ad revenue for a full sponsorship,
right,
you could pay, for example, it's a Gundam, you mentioned him,
right,
MXR
with his
mods, whatever,
right,
Cymandan, doesn't matter, whatever your audience is, right, you can say, here, I'm going to pay you $500, plug my game, boom.
Yeah, just, 5-second plug.
Exactly.
Done.
Exactly. Raid Shadow Legends did the hell out of that.
Yes,
sponsorships. If they did the hell out of that. Wow. So we just talked only about advertisement.
Yes. That is just advertising.
Wow.
Yeah.
Building a marketing plan. I can see why people go to school for this, get their degrees in this, and dedicate their careers to this. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So what other marketing channels do we have? I swear we're going to get to the question phase eventually, guys. What else is there?
Okay. So, showcasing your product.
Oh, yeah.
Like showing it.
Right. Would that be your demo?
Yes.
That's your demo.
That is when you release a playable demo.
Something that I can actually talk about now. Because you want that to be a very highly polished as humanly possible.
Yes.
And as close to the final published version. That demo, that's why we say wait until it's gold, needs to be as close to what the real game's going to be.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Oh, my goodness. Now, I only know of one way to release demos, and that's online, like different CDNs, itch.io, GOG, Steam, etc. I only know how to do that. But is there another way to release demos? Oh,
absolutely. In person.
Okay.
Going to a convention.
Okay.
Or a trade show.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, E3.
Wow.
You can absolutely get a table, get a booth, and have the equipment set up and have people stop by the table and play the game. Play it.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Teal. I'm remembering when Comic Palooza was something we went to pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
They would actually have a section specifically for indie developers.
Yes, they would.
And they would have, this one was talking about its open world exploration.
Mm-hmm.
This one had a VR game. I remember that one.
Yeah.
And they were showcasing. So that is the same as releasing a demo on itch.io.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because you actually have people there who are playing the game.
You're getting your game in the hands of the end user.
Yep, that's it.
I just had an aha moment. I'm getting it now. Okay. What else do we have that we can use as a channel?
Okay, this is getting really technical.
Okay.
And I don't expect everybody to be able to utilize this.
Okay.
But search engine and app store optimization.
Oh, heavens.
When people are searching, and they do, I'm bored. I've played through all of my FPSs. What's out there? I want something new and different.
Right.
I'm done with AAA. What's out there, indie, that is an FPS that I can play?
So I open up Google and I go
and search.
Oh no. And that's what search engine optimization is. App Store would be the same thing, but in Google Play or iStore, whatever.
That's right.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's a very specific skill set.
It really is.
And very few of us have it.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably would hire somebody to do this.
Yeah,
it's very time consuming to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend either hiring a professional or you yourself be prepared to spend a very long time learning how to do this.
It is a science that I have seen people, because you constantly have to stay on top of the algorithms.
Yes, you do.
You constantly have to learn and relearn. And I have seen companies that are SEO companies that is all they do is search engine optimization for a whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pay a lot of money. In the end, organic searches are better than paid searches, but it is, like you said, is extremely time consuming, extremely difficult. Hire a professional.
Yeah. Hiring a professional.
It's worth $1,000, $2,000, however many dollars a month to get your game out to literally the world.
Yep.
Ooh. All right. We have one more.
This last way of getting your game out there is the most challenging and the most rewarding. It's word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I was taking my entrepreneur classes, my time in college. Professor Warren Robinson, who's an entrepreneur, said word of mouth advertising is the gold in your pocket.
Yeah.
You're going to spend 1 coin to talk to someone and get 2 to 3 coins in return.
Yeah.
And, if you look at it like that, yes, you're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, but in the end, you'll be what they're talking about. So,
that's right.
So to this day, it is still the most powerful. And I'm just going to assume, Teal, that with the advent of the internet, social media platforms, etc., it's even stronger now.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, this is the point where you're telling people about your game. And they tell other people, and they tell other people, and
so on and so forth.
Yeah. And their reputation is made.
Yes. Now, there's probably, and like other stuff we've talked about, we could probably go into an entire topic one day and talk about nothing but this. So I know you have like 1 or 2 that you really want to go over. Which are the ones that you say anyone can do? Okay.
The first is community forums. Okay. Start with your own community.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you have an RPG Maker game. You start with the RPG Maker community.
Fair enough.
You can start putting your game out there anywhere from an early demo to gold.
And this is when you're doing not hey, look at this thing I'm making, but
no.
Look at my game.
Look at my game.
Talk about my game.
Play my game.
Tell people.
Tell your friends about my game.
There you go. There you go.
When you do that, be sure you update regularly. Yeah. Update your game. Update your your advertising,
your blog, your forum
posts, your forum posts to stay relevant. You've got to stay relevant.
So once you start word of mouth, especially in a forum, you have to keep at it.
You have to keep at it. You can't just one and done. That's not how this works.
And we have seen that on both sides, both the success and the failures in the communities we're part of. Like you mentioned RPG Maker community. We've seen on the RPG Maker web forum, people who have mentioned their game once, hey, here's my game, it's really cool, it's almost done, let's play it. And then they disappear for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And then they fall off of relevance.
Oh, yeah. Then they're forgotten about.
By the same token, we've seen them start off with that exact same thing, but then keep at it. Not annoying people, but talking about it. Talking about it.
Keeping their page with the game on it relevant, up to date. Change out those trailers. Change out those what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
That's
one of the reasons why I like sites like itch.io. I'm a big proponent for Steam for distribution, but itch.io is great because it allows you to put out your update blog.
Yes, it does.
And you can go, this day I've done this. Boom. Okay, a week later, I've now done this. And people can comment on it, which if you're going to use those forums, make sure people can comment.
Because those forums are going to generate buzz. And that's what you want. You want buzz.
We have people who are releasing free games in the communities we're a part of, and these games are going to be played by a lot of people simply because everyone talks about them.
Sure, exactly.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
What else we got?
Okay, so let's talk about influencers.
Oh yes. Now, there's a caveat, right, when you talk about an influencer?
Yeah. Okay, so critical analysts
like us,
like what we are, we're not influencers.
No.
Okay, do not consider a critiquer to be an influencer.
Right.
Your Let's Players are your influencers.
So while it is true, let's bring up Studio Blue, for example. While it is true that Studio Blue has an audience and people will watch it and see games, our job is to critique the game. We're not necessarily going to promote it.
Right.
However, a Let's Player, regardless of the community and the engine,
regardless of the community engine, a Let's Player
is going to
is a promoter.
Right. And of course, there are your high-level influencers. I mean, the people who touch millions and millions, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, Mr. Beast, just all those people who hit just insane amount. I mean, that's what happened to Phasmophobia.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened with it.
It was this little-known game that Mark, Jacksepticeye, Bob, this little triumvirate of 4 people got to it. They played a few rounds of it, and now it is one of the most popular survival horror games in the world.
Absolutely.
And so if you can get that right influencer, your game can make absolute bank. Are there rules for that?
Yes. Okay. So you've got the attention of an influencer. Great. Please, please, please don't give them anything. Don't give them a product any earlier than gold or an early access release.
Right.
Because, one, you want to show the world accurately what this game is about.
Makes sense.
And 2, after that influencer plays the game, the public is going to want to play it now.
Yes. The moment Markiplier plays your game, the moment Jacksepticeye plays your game, everyone who watches them and likes it is going to want to go to that Steam page
and play the game.
And they better either see a link to buy it now or a pre-order button, or you've just lost a customer.
Yep. Yeah.
Now let's talk about giving them the product, though. What do you want to give those influencers?
Okay. Well, you want to give, as I said, you want to give them a product that is as close to finalized as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
like what you want the public to play?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as I said, no earlier than gold.
Right.
And typically, almost, early access, pre-release.
The early access release version.
Yes.
Like, again, let's go back to Phasmo. It's a great example because they did it right. The version of Phasmophobia that was played by those influencers was a completed game.
Yes, it was.
But it was an early version of the game that's constantly been developed and refined and made better thanks to the public at large.
Right.
However, what they gave them was a game.
It was a finished game.
So there it is.
Yes.
There it is.
So when you're trying to vet an influencer and figure out, okay, who do I want to play this game and push it, you need to find someone in your genre and engine, someone who is familiar, who works with your genre and engine.
Okay.
So, for instance, someone who is really into Unreal You're not going to give them an RPG Maker game.
Makes sense.
You want to push for somebody that is that can understand your game, where it's coming from, so they'll be able to really push it.
There's an influencer I watch. I can never remember. He's like CJN or something. He does horror games. You would not send him your high fantasy.
No, you would not.
Okay, so you want to vet those influencers out before you approach them.
Right. And the last thing is influencers are influencers because they are professional.
Right.
And this is a job. Jobs make money.
Right.
So you need to be ready to pay this person to play your game.
Right.
Or you're going to be on a very long waiting list.
If at all.
If they even get to it.
Right, because some influencers won't even look at your game if you don't pay them.
Yeah.
Some of them will have a free list, but you're going to wait.
Yep.
And just to make sure that we reiterate, and correct me if I'm wrong, Teal, you may have to wait on releasing your game or have your game linger in 0 sales until that influencer gets to your game if you're not paying them.
If you're not paying them, right. Is that, as I said, this is their job.
Right.
So, yeah. It just, you got to pay them.
Yeah, exactly. You got to spend money to make money. We talked about that in our budgeting classroom.
Yes. And that's so true.
It is so very true. All right, so now it's time for us to take questions from our live audience.
If you've been watching, remember to use that podcast question feature that we have in chat.
Yep, just click on the little slime, looking at our treasure chest. It costs 50 points, which basically is 15 minutes of listening to us.
That's right.
Ask the question while we're waiting on that. Let's kind of go back to that budgeting thing. Because you mentioned, we talked about that at length.
Yes,
our
budgeting.
Class. How much money, you don't have to give me like a percentage, but in relation to development cost, how high are marketing costs usually?
Well, that's a doozy, but I'm just off the cuff. I'm going to say that it's going to match your dev costs.
So if you spent, I'm spitballing numbers. If you takes $50,000 to make a game, you are going to spend at least $50,000 to market it.
If you want to be successful.
Wow. So to everyone listening out there, this is a serious thing. This is why companies do this. This is why people learn just that, because it's the psychology of getting someone to buy something.
But let's just say this.
Yeah.
Then this is not for you guys who are doing this for the love. This is for people who are this is their career.
Right.
Why make something if you're not going to get paid for it?
Right.
If you're not going to get a return,
right,
a monetary return, right, why do it?
If you
and now having said that,
right,
this is not for the folks who and we're part of this too, who put out something for free because we love it, we love doing it, and folks are playing it and we're having a good time.
Right.
Okay. This is specifically targeting those developers who this is their job, this is their source of income.
Right.
This is their income stream.
Exactly. Hobbyist is not a 4-letter dirty word with us.
No, absolutely not.
There's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist indie developer that basically you're doing because you love it and you love the art form.
I was a hobbyist for several years before you pulled me in and we formed this company. Right.
But if you're going to be an indie developer in the professional sense of making money.
Right. That's the person I'm targeting with this comment.
Right. You have to consider why make it if no one's going to play it. Yeah. Makes perfect sense, Dale. It really does. All right. So we do have a question here from KV. Thank you for the question. All right. You mentioned earlier that you want to start marketing your game once it's past the proof of concept stage and into the demo phase. What's the difference between a proof of concept and a demo? Aha. So we're talking specifically about for the community, because you don't market to the consumer, to the end user, something that's just past proof of concept.
No, you don't. Right. No, the proof of concept is strictly toward at the community to get them to draw them in to help you develop the game, providing critical feedback, etc. Or etc.
Right. So this question from KV is targeting when you're marketing to the community, correct?
Right.
Okay. So to answer your question, the proof of concept is literally, here's my idea, and here's how my idea could actually look. Who could be the mechanics behind it? Maybe this is going to, it's a turn-based RPG that's going to use a battle system with a timeline similar to Octopath Traveler, but with a draw system from Final Fantasy VIII, and will span, multiple chapters, but won't be episodic. That's kind of like a proof of concept. Then you can throw together a bunch of assets into your engine and say, here's kind of what I'm going for. That's literally just your proof of concept. Your demo is something that is playable.
Yeah.
So POC, proof of concept, is where you start. All games start with a proof of concept. It is the idea in a format other than just me rambling for 5 minutes. And then you go into a prototype where you prototype it.
Yeah.
And the proof of concept becomes your prototype. Then if you're going to market it or get someone to buy it, like a publisher or whatever, that's your vertical slice, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to go too much into that because that's kind of beyond what we're talking about here. But to answer your question, proof of concept is the earliest stage of development, where the demo is the earliest playable thing.
Yeah. For
your peer community. The rules are completely different if you're talking about the end user.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. That's actually a good thing to note.
Yes, it is.
You do change the rules. One, it's a completely different set of rules.
It is.
Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons why we have seen a lot of indie games have problems is because those independent developers, those indie developers, are so used to dealing with their community. When they get an idea, hey, I want to sell my game, suddenly they start applying the same logic they did to marketing and hyping to their community,
right,
to the public at large, and that causes the problem.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, in a nutshell.
That is it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess in that regard, it really helps to understand at least the difference between the two and how you have to approach them as two different animals, even if you end up getting someone else to do the marketing to the end user.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. If you have any other questions, go ahead and ask them. This particular podcast has required some back end, and is going to lead into other things we're going to do, like brand management and such. Right. Because, wow.
There's a whole nother dimension to this.
Yeah. It's, people will do this and nothing else.
Because we're just strictly talking about marketing a game,
right?
But when you are bringing several successive games to market over the course of 5, 6, 7 years,
right,
that goes into brand management.
Right. So, for example,
branding is so important.
What we wish to do with Rose and Hearts, if we just do one game, that's different than if we do a whole series in that universe.
Right.
Two totally different animals. So yeah, all of you listening out there, hopefully you'll be able to understand that it's okay if this is overwhelming, but you need to know the difference, even if you're going to go get someone else to help, because you can't approach one like the other. Well,
yeah, and information, knowledge is power. And the more well-armed you are with information, the better you're going to be at navigating this.
There you go.
And finding the right people to do these various functions for you.
There you go. So as we kind of start wrapping it up, we are going to have a podcast on brand management in the future, because that is its own animal. And we're also going to cycle back to that elevator pitch, that promotional to pitching.
Yeah, pitching.
Because those are two separate topics that we've touched upon before that really need their own podcast. But we're going to keep going on this. We want to thank our live audience for listening. We want to thank everyone who is listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, etc., etc. We love you guys, and we love doing this.
We do. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. So join us next time for DLC Not Included. And remember,
anyone can give you the key, but you have to go through the door.